Hello, everyone, and welcome back to When I Knew. You've got me, Samantha,
And me, Dana.
and Dana. This is now your second, or no, sorry, this is not going to air for a little while. So this is now your third When I
Uh-huh.
Knew interview.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, are you having fun?
I love it. I love hearing people's stories.
Good. Well, we love having you, and you're easy to talk to, and I'm so excited to introduce you to a friend of a friend. Please join me in welcoming Laura to the show.
Hi,
Yay.
everybody.
Hey, Laura, how's it going? How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm excited to be in conversation with you guys.
Well, we're very excited to have you. And Laura, I will tell you that I have been tracking your career and your growth because Abby, who is our SVP of PR, is just your biggest fan.
She
And she
is the
always posts
best. Shout
about
out to
you on
Abby.
social media. And so it's just been such a pleasure. I mean, I met your brother
Oh,
a few years
good.
ago here in New York City and Mia.
Nice.
And I'm so happy for you.
Thank
You've grown
you.
so much, and you have a lot of cool things on the horizon. So, Laura, why don't you start off by telling us exactly who you are, what you do,
Mhm.
and maybe something about you that not a lot of people know.
Ooh, okay. We're gonna start off already. Okay. My name is Laura Dowding, and I am a singer-songwriter from Westerly, Rhode Island. And I sing like R&B, soul, very much in the genre of Amy Winehouse, Adele, Lauryn Hill, people kind of like that. Um,
Wow.
I write all of my own music. Um, so I just put a record out in June, and it's called Grown, appropriately.
Yeah.
And it has 7 tracks, and I wrote all the tracks on that. And so now I'm just kind of in the process of continually moving forward and next steps of my career, and doing shows and things like that, interviews like this. And yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to be able to have an opportunity to express myself in a way that is so available to connect with other people. And not everybody has the ability to write a
Hmm.
song or write a script or write at all. And so when you have that gift, I think it's very, very special to the world. And I don't take that lightly. And when I write, I think very heavily about the people listening to the music. I want to communicate what I'm feeling, but in a way that somebody feels like, wow, I feel like that too. So,
Hmm. And
Mm.
you
yeah,
do it very, very well.
thank
I think
you.
that there's something to be said about being unbridled with your thoughts and feelings and sharing your creativity, but doing it in a way that's genuine and well informed, but that will also really resonate with people. I think
Yes,
sometimes artists can go either too deep or they're too surface. So
yes,
finding that happy
yes.
medium is it is quite a
It is.
skill, and you
It's
do it well.
definitely, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely, you have to, I think you have to have an awareness about it. You can't just, I honestly, so many people in the world do music. And I think that's really what separates some of the great, songs of this time in life and some of the songs that you maybe never hear. It's like the fact that there's a story that is right, just like you just said, right in the middle lane of, it's not so deep that I can't connect with it, but it's not so surfacey that it's like, well, what are we doing here,
Right.
so it's
What am
like
I
Mhm.
listening to?
there is a middle ground. And I work hard on finding that for people, because it is a platform and it is an opportunity. And something that I've kind of realized over time is that people will call me or come up to me at a show or message me on social media, and they've had an extraordinary experience with a song of mine and I don't know them. And
Hmm.
Mhm.
that's very powerful to say, wow, like this person says, their brother just passed away and my song You Matter got them through this time of their life and I don't know them. Like that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, and that's
that's
something to
powerful.
be taken very seriously.
Absolutely. I'm
Definitely.
so glad
Right.
that you say that, and
Yeah.
um, I think I'm just so I'm I found myself watching your career grow, very captivated by the thoughtfulness that you put behind
Oh,
your
thank you.
craft. So before we get too deep, I want to ask you, is there anything like quirky about you that we can pull when you're super famous and we can look back
There's so
and be
many
like,
things.
one time she said that she only sleeps with one sock on. Like, I want to know
Oh my
in
God.
Life and Style magazine when they do a special on you called "What's in My Purse." Like,
Oh my God.
tell us something about you that's quirky. Like, what can you never leave the home without? Like,
Okay.
is there something like, is there a food that you just can't even look at? Tell us one funny thing.
If you know me, and Abby can probably vouch for this, I am like the weirdest, goofiest, like strangest person you will ever meet, which I think is part of being a creative person. But like, okay, so this is something funny. I am very specific about taking the aluminum foil like off any like an Advil cap or the peanut butter or whatever. I hate if there's still a piece. Oh my God, I'll sit there for 30 minutes and make sure every piece comes off. I'm like very anal about.
Would you like to come to my house?
Oh my God,
Want to rip all the
when people
foil
just
off
poke
my
it
bottles?
through, oh my gosh, that drives me crazy. I also like make sure the eggs are in a certain order and like my coffee cups are in a certain order. I'm so weird. I'm so
Wait,
weird.
Jeez,
I
right.
need to know exactly how you distinguish an egg from another egg. What
Okay,
order?
listen, it's very smart, okay?
Okay.
If you have a carton, right, and you
Mhm.
take 6 of the eggs out, and 6 of the eggs are on one side, I have like dropped a carton more than once. So I will constantly make sure like symmetry is everything to me.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yes, it's so weird. And it's funny because like when I live with different people, they'll leave it one way and I'll change it. And it's like, what are you doing? But I don't know. I
Oh
do
my
it
God.
subconsciously. It's so strange. I'm telling you. That's
I
just the
love
surface. I always put my right contact in first. I'm so weird.
Anytime you want to come to our houses, you are more than welcome to rip off the foil and order our eggs and whatever else you want to arrange.
You know what's funny is like I'm not a super overly like tidy person. That's probably something I hate to admit, but it's true. But like I'm very particular about everything, and which is what makes me good at music, but
There
it's
you go.
Yeah.
also what makes me so weird and crazy and oh,
Well, we don't
That
whatever.
think you're weird and crazy. We think you're great.
no. Yes.
So I
Also,
want. Oh,
I don't want to sorry.
go ahead.
I don't want to like step on your toes about how you describe yourself, but I feel like you should know when I got the email about you, it said Laura is a singer, songwriter, and all around kick-ass woman. So you may want to add that to your
Well, thank you.
your self
My
description.
quirks. Yes, thank you. I
You can
appreciate
add that
that.
to your
My
Instagram
yeah,
bio.
exactly. I will. That'll be my new
Footnote to your
profile.
album. We love
Definitely.
it. So tell us, for all of the listeners who maybe don't know you very well, tell us how you got started as a performer and what it's sort of been like going on this journey of being a singer-songwriter and getting your name out there and meeting people and pushing your career forward.
Yes. Yes, the ever-present question. How do you do that? uh, I definitely like came out of the womb like singing and playing and dancing and whatever. My mom is a music teacher and she played up until she was 9 months pregnant with me. She was like an accompanist for a choir, and so she was constantly playing the piano. And I was born, and then when I was 4, um, I was like, please teach me how to play the piano. And she was like, not until you're 5. And she started when she was 5. So I was determined to start when I was 4 because I wanted to beat her. I'm also very competitive, apparently, ever since I was little. So I started to teach myself, and she would just find me like, I never, even as a baby, I never like banged on the piano. I was very intentional about playing the notes and pressing things like that. So she started to teach me when I was 4, and she was just telling me the other day that she said she's never seen a kid, because she's a music teacher, she has tons of music students. She said she's never seen a child. I was just like a sponge. I just wanted to know every day, Mom, teach me something new. Mom, teach me something new. Teach me another piece. Mom, look, I learned this already. And she's like, oh my gosh. So I thought that was going to take you a week, And
Mhm.
it was just, I just constantly was just, I think it really is who I am. And I was born into being that person. And I think I just continually wanted to know so much. It felt like knowing a piece of myself, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
So when I started playing the piano after my mom had been teaching me for a few years, when I turned about 7 or 8, she was like, "You need to go. Like, I can't teach you anymore." So she got me a piano teacher, and I played piano all the way up until high school. And then when I was in middle school, I kind of dabbled, instead of being like a piano prodigy, I kind of spread myself amongst I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know how to play the guitar. I played the saxophone. I played the violin. I played like random string, like ethnic world instruments that were totally random. And
Wow.
I was just very interested in the concept of music and the ability to create it out of nothing. I just was so amazed by that. Um, and then, I grew up in church. I was singing in all the church plays. I'm like that typical choir kid. Like, I was not very cool. I was like, people respected me because I was so good at music. But that, I was president of the choir in high school. I was voted like best vocalist. Like, that's me. That's my life.
That's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah. And then my mom said to me, in high school, she said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't want to study music. I'm not going to make it my job. I don't want to do that. No way." And finally, senior year came. And of course, I had to go to school for music. So
Yeah.
I went and I got a music degree in composition. So, like, the art of knowing really how to write a piece of music well.
Mhm.
And there's definitely a formula of why certain notes go together and things like that. And then fast forward, I moved to LA and I started working for a film composer, and I loved it. But my boss was 35, and at the time I was 21. And I was like, shit, like, for the next 15 years, I'm going to be somebody's assistant. Like, no, thank you. I'll try
Right.
my own career.
Mhm.
Like, so, um, I didn't realize how difficult that was going to be. But yeah, that after that, I worked for him, and he had like $1 million studio, and I worked on my own record. So I would go to work at like 5 in the morning, and I would go to the studio, and then at 9 o'clock I would go upstairs and work at the desk until 5 or 6 o'clock, and then at 6 o'clock I would go back downstairs and I would work on my record until 2 or 3 in the morning. I lived down the road,
Wow.
and so I would drive home, and then I come back, and that's when I made my first record, and it was the best learning experience. It didn't really do much like growth for myself as an artist, on a platform of getting fans and more shows and stuff, but
Mhm.
it did so much for me learning how to create that. And like, I
Yeah.
made this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's so much to my story. um, I got very sick when I lived in LA, and I got a throat infection.
Oh no.
And yes, this is the Lifetime movie story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I I was rushed to the hospital. I had like a cold that turned into strep throat, that turned into tonsillitis, that turned into an abscess in my throat
Oh
in
my
like,
gosh.
yes,
Oh.
in like 5 days, maybe
Oh
more than
my
that.
god.
But all of a sudden, I had lockjaw because I couldn't. Yeah, and I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital. And I
Yeah.
went, yeah, yeah, you should go to the hospital now. You can't put food in your mouth. But I went to like the clinic, the Minute Clinic at like
Mhm.
CVS or something, and they were like, you need to go to the emergency room. So they
Oh,
sent me over to the emergency room to be checked. And I was like, do you think I have tonsillitis? And they said, we're past that. And they like rushed me into surgery, and they handed me a piece of paper. And the piece of paper said, we might have to put a breathing tube in. Yes. And I was like,
uh,
I'm not signing this paper. I'm a singer. And they were like,
Yeah.
well, we're trying to keep you alive to be that. So you have to sign the paper. And I was like so sick. I was so upset. It was just like so intense. So I did, and I prayed the hardest prayer I ever did, and I begged them, like, I'm a singer. Please don't do that.
Right.
And I can remember like laying on the operating table, tears like streaming down my face. And this always gets me emotional, but my doctor walked into the OR room and he said, "This is Laura. She's a singer." And it was like such an overwhelming piece. Like it was like God saying that. Like, you're
Yeah.
a singer. You are a singer. But we need to make sure that you're going to do that. And so
Yeah.
they spent an extra, I think, 3 or 4 hours doing my surgery so they didn't have to cut my throat. They had to take,
Wow.
yeah, they had to take a lot longer. And I woke up and immediately I like feel my throat and there was no breathing tube. And I spent another week in the hospital. I had to have another surgery.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it was very, very intense. But I remember laying in the hospital being like, okay, God, like, I will take it seriously. Because after I put out my record, nothing really happened for me and I got very discouraged.
Mhm.
So I had put that first record out and I was like, oh, that's not how it works. You make a record and then you're famous. Like, oh, who knew? So
damn.
yeah, so I didn't stop doing music, but I wasn't really pursuing it very intentionally. And then so I had gotten sick probably 2 or 3 years after that. And I remember being in the hospital just being like, okay, like I will do everything I can to make this career happen the way that it's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. So so that was 4 years ago that I was sick. And then ever since have really been kind of, I've definitely have bumps in the road for sure, but I put out my new record last summer and it got tons of traction and lots of opportunities, and I was much more intentional, about putting it out and getting it out to
Mhm.
certain people and learning from the last experience instead of, not taking those lessons. So it's been a
That's
journey.
amazing.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
That's
But
really wonderful. And so you said that happened 4 years ago?
yeah, that I was sick, right?
Okay, amazing. I
Yeah.
love I
I
love
didn't sing for
how
about 7 months. I didn't know
oh
if
my
I could sing
gosh.
again. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That just must have really sparked inside of you like, okay, I get it. I cannot this was a talent
Yes.
given to me.
Yes.
I have to use it and I
Yeah.
cannot lose it.
Well, and I always tell people, like in an interview, that I always say that I was blessed enough to have a near death experience at the age of 25 because
Wow.
people don't value life like,
No, they
unless
don't.
you're on a hospital bed wondering like, is your whole life going to change? It, it's like, okay, wake up, pay my bills, go to work. I kind of like my job, whatever. And it's like, no, like life is not guaranteed.
No, and you can make
Mm-mm.
changes. You can pivot at any point
Right.
you want to,
Mhm.
find purpose or find happiness or new
Yes.
friends, new opportunities. Like
Yes.
it's never too late.
Never.
So
Mm-mm.
fast forward to sort of the past few years, and
Mhm.
I've seen you doing shows. Abby goes
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
every single
Yes.
one,
Yes,
and
she's
you
my number
have
one.
you just have such a wonderful following. And
Thank you.
what's it like um, having shows where people are coming specifically to see you and they know your songs and they're reciting your lyrics back to you? Like, how does that feel?
Yeah, it's a dream come true. That's what I've always dreamed of. It's a lot less about me and a lot more about the fact that my music is having an impact on people's life. Um
Mhm.
because I feel like with music, I just kind of feel like a channel that I wasn't an open channel before, and now I am, to
Mhm.
say, this is, God or the universe. I'm not particular about words, whatever people refer to as this bigger, higher power that kind of runs this universe.
Hmm.
I, I just feel like I need to be open to the gift that I was given
Mhm.
with music in order to have such a positive impact. I just guess I've always kind of understood with music how powerful, like, people will, any moment in life really has a soundtrack to, a
Yeah.
wedding
Yes.
moment, a sad moment where you want to give up, a happy moment, a proposal, like all these things, a lot of them have songs attached to that, and having the ability to be that song, that's
Yeah.
incredible to me. And
It
so, yeah, go ahead.
It is. I just was going to say, you're so right. Music is so powerful, and it's almost like a universal language, but
Yes.
it has the power to speak to other people through you and to affect your own life. I have the privilege of knowing that you had a hard time last summer. Can you
Yeah.
kind of talk us through what happened last
Yes.
summer and how powerful
Definitely.
musical was to you at that point too?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like I had so many different things in life because of my platform. It's like, okay, cool. You're going to influence people and you're going to inspire them and you're going to go through it to show them that they can deal with it too. I'm like, okay, great. Fun. But yeah, cool. I'll do it too. But last summer I've always kind of had a struggle with depression just my whole life. I think has always been a little piece of me. I think as a creative person, I
Hmm.
always tell people, and Dana, you can probably attest to this, is like for me, I feel like I'm hypersensitive to everything. Like
Yeah.
every
Hmm.
emotion is on level 1,000 for me. So when
Me
I'm
too.
yes, okay. So like when I'm on, if something happens and I'm like so happy, I'm like, oh my gosh, that girl is like rainbows and bunnies and what is she on? Because she loves her life
Hmm.
so much, like it's weird. And then when I'm sad, it's the same. It's like
Yeah.
very bad and very dark. And that, of course, that piece doesn't happen quite as much because I do a lot of spiritual work on myself. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of things to kind of maintain the upper half of the emotional scale. But
Mhm.
you know, it happens to everybody. If you let yourself, that's how kind of momentum and energy works. Is that if you let yourself go down that path, it can get very dark and very bad. And yeah, I kind of had done my record and I I kind of describe it to people if you run a marathon and then you cross the finish line and you collapse.
Mhm.
That's
Hmm.
kind of how I felt. Is that especially with art that you are giving a piece of yourself. You really are.
Yes. Yes.
And you have to be vulnerable in order to create the kind of music that people are going to relate to because
Absolutely.
people, you know, people are transparent. They can tell if this is real or if this is fake or whatever.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Right. So I just kind of had the momentum, one thing after another. Is like I had this really high of my record came out and I went to BET awards and like all these different things happened that were like incredible. And then I kind of came home from LA and I like had, you know, I had 5 shows in a weekend. They all got canceled, and it's like those.
Whoa.
What?
That's my month's, you know, income
Right.
is a
Right.
weekend of shows. So they all got canceled, and I couldn't pick up any more shows. I got in a car accident. Like me and my boyfriend broke up. Like it was just like boom, boom,
Oh
boom, boom.
jeez.
It was kind of like you know when you're in the undertow of the ocean and
Yep.
you're like I
Mhm.
can't get out of this and this momentum, this energy. And it just I really hit like a rock bottom. And I'm the kind of person who I like to do things myself and I don't like to
Mhm.
ask for
Hmm.
help.
Mhm.
And it was really dark and it was really scary. And now again being sick, I see that as a blessing to my story to share with other people to say, take your life seriously.
Mhm.
And life is too short to kind of not not go after what you want to do and not dream big and like you know you have this incredible gift and you're just going and working and doing something you hate. Like that's not what life is about. And so that's part of
Right.
my platform. And then now with you know with what happened last summer, because I've struggled with depression before. I don't know that it's ever
Mhm.
gotten that bad, but
Mhm.
Hmm.
even sharing that part of my story to say, listen, I am one of the most advocates for self love and happiness and meditation and all these things. And you know what? I kind of got off my horse and fell down the hole a little bit too. And I
Mhm.
got back up, and that's okay too. you know, and now I'm
Yeah.
about to be in the best position in my career. It's like, just don't quit yet. That's what I always want people to know. Is like, gosh, you imagine in 3 months your life could be drastically different. Like,
Oh my
Totally.
God,
yeah, don't
absolutely.
quit yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what, and I can say that from a place of saying, I tried to quit. I did.
Mm-hmm.
I was done. And people pulled me out and said, no, this world needs you. And as a segue, like my interestingly enough, my record came out before that happened. And the single off my record is called You Matter. And that's
I love
much
that
easier
song.
to, yeah, thank you. That's much easier to tell other people. But for us to kind of, you know, it's like, oh my gosh, that girl's single is You Matter. And she's like struggling with depression and, you know, all this stuff. Like, what the heck? But it's like, we all need each other to say, your story matters. Like, you matter,
Right.
and you're going to impact somebody, and your life is valuable. If you're still here today, there's a reason.
Yes.
Exactly.
So,
Dana and I talked about this when we first became friends, that oftentimes it's so much easier to be loving and kind to your friends and family than it is to be loving and kind to
yes,
yourself,
yes.
you know, and that I another thing I guess I would offer, because I've been in very similar places
Mhm.
in my life, is that, you know, these things, learning lessons and finding strength, it's always there, but it does take time. And I would encourage,
Yes,
just like you would,
yes,
that everyone just give themselves not a
yes.
chance, but lots of chances,
Every
because
chance.
it's a learning experience, it's
Oh,
a
I
growing
love that.
experience. And, you know, I think with Abby especially, and I love that we're talking. She's going to be so thrilled when she's playing this in her car. She's going to be like,
Yes,
everyone's talking
for
about me.
sure.
Because Abby's so sweet. But, you know, Abby's gotten very good about this with me, because we've been friends for a very, very, very long time. And she has watched me go through all these really, really high highs and really, really low lows. And what I so appreciate about her friendship, and I think that maybe you and I can relate to each other with
Mhm.
this, is that there's a there's a certain point when, like, I do need my friends to step in. I
Yes,
always say,
yes,
when I stop
absolutely.
eating, when I stop showering, when I can't get out of bed, and when
Yep.
I don't return your phone calls, that's when you need to come over,
Come find
Yeah.
you
me.
know, wave a pizza in my face, throw me in the shower, and
Yep.
don't leave me until
Yes.
I'm sort of, you know,
Out.
upright and
Yes.
breathing again.
Yes.
And I know that
Absolutely.
that sounds very dramatic, but it's true.
No,
So,
it's true.
have
It
you
really
found the
is.
same, you know, as you've been
Yes.
very open and honest about your experiences and your highs and your lows? Do your friends kind of know, as they continue to grow with you and your friendship continues to grow, are you noticing that they're sort of getting better about noticing, you know, certain behaviors, and that's when they check in with you? Or, you know, maybe, well, she's being emotional on Facebook right now. That's fine. She's expressing herself. And,
Right.
you know, have they sort of found that balance with you?
I think so. Yes. I think that um I am a very private person, which is sounds weird because like I write music about my life. So it's like, how can you,
Yeah.
but actually I always tell people that I feel like my life is a little inside out, because most people, they, you know, share what they want to share and they be private, but for me it's like I have to share. Not have to, I get to share as much as I can in order to have an impact for people. So in the times that I am not on stage, am not in the studio, am not in an interview, I am very private, and I do like to kind of be by myself. And that's just kind of how I live my life, because
Hmm.
my life is so public. So that is not kind of unusual, but I 100% agree. After this happened to me, I was like, I feel like I need to share it. You know, I feel like I got
Yeah.
to be honest about it. And I wrote on Facebook a whole little thing about, like, if you're struggling with depression, you know, a few things. And if you're somebody who knows somebody struggling with depression. And one of the things I said, because I can say it from personal experience, is that the people who need help won't ask you. They
No.
won't.
Exactly.
They won't ask you. They need you to bang down the door and say, you need help right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That's, you know, and you have to be willing to say, yes, I want to get out of this? And even for myself, like I said, I do a lot of positive thinking and listening to tapes and books and seminars and meditation and all those things. And after going through this period, I had gotten so low that my
Mm-hmm.
little tricks and tips and things, they weren't working. It was like
Right.
there was a kind of a glass ceiling on reaching that positive momentum. And like going back to what you had said, every day I was like, this is the best I got today. I don't feel like shit, but I feel blah, and blah is
Yeah.
better than shit today. That's the best I got. And
Right.
every day, that's what it took, is like, I knew it was kind of a step-by-step thing of getting out of the hole was going to take me one step at a time. And it was frustrating because I am such a positive person. I
Yeah.
was like, I hate that I feel like not good about life today. Like, I don't like
Yeah.
that, but that's how it is,
Absolutely.
And so with people, kind of, I had to let people in. I had to say, this sucks and I'm embarrassed, but right now I have to talk to somebody. And I'm
For
sorry if they're
sure.
bothered, and I'm sorry. We feel like we don't want to be a burden and we don't want to call. They want you to call. Like, they want you to
Yes.
call. And
I
they
can't
want,
tell you how many times I
yes,
would call Abby in the
yes,
middle of the
you have to.
workday,
Yes,
and
I need to
she would
talk.
go
Yes,
hide under her desk and take my
yep,
call, and I'd just be like, I feel like such an
yep,
armpit today. And she goes,
yep.
okay, well, you're not an armpit. You're a lady.
Right.
But,
And
let's talk about it. And that
yeah,
was,
I think every moment that you're going through something, you may need something different, and we can't always vocalize
Yes,
that. You know what
yes,
I always say, there are some days that if you literally, if you just get your 2 feet out of bed, you won.
yes, you win.
Yeah.
Yes,
It can be
absolutely.
just that simple. For you, Laura, what do you think that was the turning point for you? What brought you out of this dark time?
Um, I think that I I know that people struggle so deeply, and I know that sometimes, like, everybody needs something different, like you just said. But I
Mhm.
think that I had to take responsibility and say, I want to live my life. I do
Mhm.
want to be here. I do want to be better. Like, it's easy to feel sad and kind of soak in that and sit in that. And
mm-hmm.
unfortunately, there is no stagnation. Like, it either gets worse or better. It might
Mhm.
be a fraction, but if you just sit and stew in it, and I'm just going to feel sad and I just hate the world and all these things, like, I did feel like that, but I also felt like my desire to get my life back and get myself back was bigger.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is that I will tell you, there was a turning point where a friend of mine had a show. Their band is called Flowers and Cane, and they were playing a show in Westerly, where I'm from. And I could go, and I haven't been to one of their shows in a long time, and I really wanted to go. And it was about 3 weeks after kind of everything hit the fan. And I was like, I wasn't going out. I wasn't going out of the house. I wasn't nothing. I was just like trying to get, on my feet. And I canceled all my shows for July, everything. Um,
Mhm.
and I said, this could be really, I was having like really social anxiety, like really just everything. And
Mhm.
I was like, this could be really bad or really good. And I said, I'm, because of my career in my life, like, I am a risk taker. And I said, I got to risk it, and I got to see if it's going to be really good. And I knew I would know a lot of people there. And I was like anxious. And my best friend came with me, and she was like, Laura, it's down the road. We're going to get ready. We're going to put our makeup on, and we're going to go. And if we hate it, we leave.
Mhm.
Even if there's a $10 cover, it doesn't matter. She was like, I'm going to pay the cover. And if we stay for 5 minutes, oh well.
Yeah.
It was worth it. And so we went, and I was nervous and all these things. And I got there, and I wanted to sit in the corner and just kind of like listen to music and see. And all of a sudden, I started seeing all these people I know. And I also was having really bad anxiety about the fact that people, your record just came out. You just went to BET. Like, you should be on, you should be
Mm.
like, I was worried that people were going to have this kind of perception of, like, oh my God, your life is so exciting right now. And I'm like,
How
no, I
dare
hate,
you?
yeah,
How
Mm-hmm.
dare you be
yeah,
down? Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And, you know what's interesting is that I people would pull me into conversation about music, and I couldn't help but talk about how much I love music. I couldn't. I couldn't stop myself from getting excited about my record. Like genuinely. It was just like it would come out of, I don't know where it come out of, but it was like they rolled the stone away and the light just like pierced right through. That music was always kind of my passion and the thing that was, yes, this is why I'm alive. This is my purpose. And that was like a turning point for me to say, and like all another piece was that I felt beautiful again. It was like
Aw.
all these new things. And yeah, that was a very big turning point for me to say, wow, like that is the true essence of myself, because I can't help but feel love when I think
Mhm.
about music or I talk about music. And people were so proud of me and people were so excited for me. I thought that would make me feel bad, but it made me feel like, no, this is good. Like do have a purpose, and I do have a reason to be sharing this music, and I'm doing a good job, things like that.
Mhm.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, that was
So,
big for me. And I did start going to therapy, which I think is super beautiful and brilliant, because it's somebody that you can talk to about everything and they have zero attachment, zero
yep.
judgment, zero anything.
Yes. It's so healthy, and also I'm always shouting from the mountaintops, therapy, because
Yes.
I grew up in the Midwest, and a lot of times it's not they don't use
Mhm.
words and say, "Shame, what are you doing? Are you crazy?" But you feel it. There is that
Yes.
perception there.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so I'm always like, therapy,
Yes.
therapy. It's so
Yes. It's
helpful.
the best. It really,
Yeah.
I would recommend that to anybody who is trying to get out of like a space like that, because
Mhm.
unfortunately, um, back to talking about how it's really important to let people in. But if whoever's listening to this has somebody who is depressed or has anxiety, I would say, please don't push that person. It's very important to let them get to the place with your help, but
hmm
without, like, if I have a few really great friends, like Abby, for example, because we love Abby.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
today I want to eat ice cream and I want to watch this dumb TV show and I don't want to talk about why I'm sad. I just want to do that. And you, as a friend, you need to say, okay,
Yep.
that's
Mhm.
what we're going to do.
Well,
Not,
Yeah.
I'll
well,
shout
you
out
should talk
someone
about, well,
else.
yeah.
I'll shout out someone else who does. So we have another podcast called Dicks and Politics.
Right.
And we have a co-host on that show, Corben. And and I've told him this, so he's already heard this. But when I was depressed, I lost two jobs in
Mm,
2018. I was like just this
yeah.
high-powered like sales exec here in New York City, and then I was chopped down to what I perceived to be nothing.
Right.
And
Mhm.
Corben was so fabulous
Mm.
because every day, hello, Samantha, have you woken up today?
Mm.
Mm.
Hello, Samantha, would you like to go to the grocery store with me?
Nice.
Hello, let's
Mhm.
go for a walk. And
Yes.
and usually my response is, no, go away.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then finally, when I sort of did shower and did do my laundry,
Yep.
we started out small and I'd be like, why don't you come over and we'll watch some Dancing with the Stars clips. And we had to sort of start small
Yes.
because I could
Yes.
only kind of, it wasn't tolerate, I don't like that word, but I could
Yeah.
only handle, so much. But he
Sure.
would not come in and be
Yes.
like, oh my God, you've gained
You're a
10
mess.
pounds and
Yes.
you smell like an onion.
Yeah.
He would come in and be like, well, look who's sitting upright today. Girl, let's
Yes.
watch these clips. And then he'd stay for an
Yes.
hour and then he'd go. And it was amongst all my other friends because they all did their own special things to help
Mhm.
pull me up.
Mhm.
But that was so important. So I guess another message that I'd like to share, and I think you guys will agree, is like the people who need the help probably aren't going to ask for it. You
Yes.
just, if you love and care about someone and you know them sort of well enough, you got to just kind of check in here and there. And
Mhm.
when they start to let you back in, if they bring it up, then yeah, let's get into it. But if they don't and they're just sitting there in sweatpants and they want to watch Dancing with the Stars clips with you,
Yes.
just watch it
Just do
with
that.
them,
Just do that.
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
is so helpful
I
and more
think
than good enough.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I agree with that. I think that sometimes we get in our ego about, well, we want to be the person to help and we want to be the person who fixes it and whatever. And sometimes the question has to be, are you talking to someone? Are you hanging out with somebody? Are you, and like sometimes I only talk to my therapist about things because that's all that I really want to do. And that has to be okay. Like, I am talking to somebody. I do, I am responsible. I am paying attention to my feelings. I am calling for help when I need it, things like that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we get in our lives, we get all wrapped up in our problems and we're like, why is this happening to me? And it sends us into a spiral. But someone once said to me, I just want to share this because it really resonated with me. Someone said, when you're looking back at those things that happened that were so hard in those dark times, you really honestly can't be mad because those are the experiences that led you to where you're supposed to be right now.
Right.
So like if someone told you no, just for example, in a career thing or whatever, and it just really upset your life and you're like, I can't believe that happened to me, then you can still later go, if that person hadn't said no or that hadn't worked out or I hadn't been through that dark time, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
Exactly.
Right.
Laura,
Absolutely.
was there something that you like? Okay, so this is super pro. I can't believe I'm sharing this. When I'm really, I'm very much like you. When I'm high, I'm high, but when I'm low, I'm
It's bad.
low. And I don't turn to substances. It's nothing like that. It's a mental thing for me. It's an emotional thing, and things go very dark. But something that I say to myself over and over and over again as I am, rocking back and forth in my bed crying, and I shout it at the top of my lungs or I whisper it like, there's got to be something else. That's what I always say to myself. And sure enough, I'm not right about a lot of things, but I am right about that. There is always something else. Is there like a statement? And Dana, I'll ask you this as well if you want to share it. Like, is there something that you would say to yourself over and over and over again that would really help to, even if it was only for a minute or just for a little bit, sort of pull you up out of the darkness?
For me, I always kind of would, not always, I sometimes didn't remember this. I think I try to constantly tell myself that the pain is temporary.
Yes.
Because that is, I've been watching a lot of I've been seeing this guy on Facebook who did, like, he has a viral video where he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and tried to commit suicide and he survived. And so now he's kind of an advocate for, like, suicide prevention and things like that. And he said something that I think is very important. I think 99% of the people who commit suicide don't want to die, but they want the pain to stop.
Yes. And those are
And
two very different things.
very different. And so I think that, and that'll be definitely something I touch on my next record, is that, like, as bad as it hurts, as terrible as it is, as much as you feel like you can't even see the way out, it is temporary. And I have, my best friend is the one who I had called, and I was like, I'm done. I love you. Like, I'm out of here. I'm sorry. And he was like, Laura, give me one more day. Just one more day. Give me one day. And I said, okay, I can do one more day. And then he would say, just give me one more day. Every day he would say that to me. And then it would go, give me a week. Let's just, where are we going to be in a week? And he would just kind of talk me off the lid. Okay, a week. All right. I could probably stick around for a week. And then he would say, give me 30 days. And then all of a sudden 3 months had gone by and I'm like, happy as can be. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's 90 days. That, and so when you really break it down, like, so I would say for me was kind of that this is temporary. This pain is so bad, but it's temporary.
Yeah, and
Dana,
I love that you broke it down into just by the day, because when you
Yeah.
say 90 days,
Yeah. You're
that's
like, oh, forget
overwhelming.
it. I'm
yeah,
not
it sounds
even
like a
Yeah.
lot.
But that your friend was like, just give me one more day. Just
Yeah.
one more day. Like
Yeah.
that's how you break it down and you get through it minute by minute, hour by
Mhm.
hour, you
Mhm.
know?
And eventually it does subside, and it
Mhm.
Hmm.
won't, it won't be like you said, it won't be an overnight thing. It will be, when like you lose like 15 pounds and all of a sudden everybody notices you've lost 15 pounds, but really for the
Hmm.
last 3 weeks you've been eating and drinking your water and eating healthy and working out,
Right.
and nobody notices until boom, all of a sudden there's that moment. And I feel
Yep.
like being, getting out of that space is similar, is that you make an effort every day, every day, every day, every day, and then all of a sudden it feels like, oh my gosh, there's the light, I can see it.
I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Dana, when you're creating, because I know Dana's so talented, and I know
Yes.
she's on Modern Family. She's a
Yes.
huge star. I can't even believe
Ah.
she's talking to me right now. Like, I can't believe that, like, when I text her, she actually texts me back. I'm like, every time, I'm like, wow,
Wow, we're
Dana.
friends.
But Dana, a lot of your process, and I think that people maybe don't think about this often, but being a comedian, you do have to dig kind of deep, because a lot of comedy can be rooted in experiences that maybe aren't so great and aren't so pleasant, but you pad
Mhm.
it with humor because it helps you get by. Like, what's your process when you're being creative and you're trying to dig into a character, or you're writing a screenplay or a show?
Mhm.
How do you allow yourself to have that elasticity with yourself, going from writing and sort of going deep, and then pulling yourself out of it and saying, all right, well, it's time to cook dinner for my son now. Here we go.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I think actually our art, be it music, performing, writing, whatever it
Mhm.
is, for people like us who have that deep soul need to
Mhm.
create,
Right. Yes.
Hmm.
um, it's almost like I consider it a privilege to be able to get everything I have out
Mhm.
through humor. And when Robin Williams committed suicide,
Mhm.
that really impacted the comedy community, and it happens from time to time. The saying that funny people, there's always a reason they're funny, and it's never funny.
Mm. Oh
Hmm.
you
wow.
know that's
Yeah.
very true. And so but for me, I think about 2 years ago, when I got into the podcast world, because I'm obsessed with podcasts, I made a pact with myself. I said, okay, I'm going to try and be more vulnerable. I think as an
Mm.
actor and as a performer, when I'm out in public, my husband always says, oh yeah, people outside the home, they get cute, bubbly Dana, like my
Right.
my persona. He's like, they don't know who Dana is at home.
Hmm.
Hmm. Oh my gosh,
So
every guy I've ever dated has said that to
it's
me.
so interesting. It's very weird, but I think that I made a pact with myself to be more vulnerable, and I
Mhm.
think not only was that impactful for me, but I think it makes you more relatable. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So anything painful I experience in my life, even though I may turn it into a piece of comedy just because that's my voice,
Mhm.
it's still super powerful, and I know that it's going to touch somebody else as well as help heal me. I think laughter is very healing, and I also think music is too. It's almost
Yeah.
these universal languages,
Yes.
not to deflect from me, but I definitely want to ask you, you're working on a new album, right? I heard you
Yes.
mention that you're going to use these experiences to
Yes.
sort of inform your music.
Yeah, I think that um for me as a person, it's a constant goal for me and important to me to always be better and be more
Mhm.
vulnerable and be more transparent. And I think, like we talked about in the beginning of the conversation, is that it's very important to me. Not every artist is like this, but when I sit down to write a song, I imagine the woman who's in her car singing along. Like,
Mhm.
so sometimes I'll write a song and then I'll almost completely rework the song to say, okay, this is really aggressive from what I was going through, but it needs to be more like this, because I feel like once I make it it belongs to everybody. It belongs to the world. It's not
Mm.
my music. It has
Mhm.
my name on it, but what does that mean? So,
Mhm.
I think with the next record, it will have a lot. There's a song on the next record called "Be All Right" that I wrote about, like, you know what? Oh well, like it'll be all right. Everything
Mhm.
will be all right. Like, it's not that serious. It's
Mhm.
this person breaks up with you, and then this car accident, and this and that, and then it's like you just kind of throw your hands up, and you're like, okay, it's gonna be fine. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
eventually
part
will
of
be
the
okay.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a song called "Be All Right." There's a song on the new record called "Yet to Come," which I wrote a little while ago, but it's weird because this sounds very strange, and I hope it doesn't come across bad, but sometimes, like, my own songs will inspire me because I don't feel like they're my song. Like, so I feel, like I said, as a channel. So sometimes it feels like God speaking to me just through a song that I happen to have written. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so there's a song called "Yet to Come," and I did write that for somebody about 2 years ago. But then it re-inspired me, now to say, yes, the best is yet to come. That's the chorus,
Mhm.
is that the best is yet to come. And keep your head up, and it's going to be okay. And I wrote it for a friend who was going through a divorce, and it's like, but that can be relatable to anybody who's going through a change in life.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yes.
maybe this is a change, but it's going to be okay, and the next chapter will be good.
Mhm.
um and then I am still working heavily on a song that I've just kind of started creating, and it's called "I Won." And basically, the chorus says, "You could tell the devil he can go home and call up Jesus and tell him I won." And
Mhm.
um, just really touching on mental health and saying, "Not today, Satan," kind of deal of
Yeah.
of this got really hard and this got really scary, but I'm still here, and this is just the beginning, and I won. And I always try to, with with any kind of music I write, it's very, very important to me that, even if, very similar to you, Dana, with comedy, is that even if it's a dark thing that I'm addressing, I want you to feel better for listening to the song. Even if
Yes.
you're relating to mental health or you're relating to depression, you feel like, I can do it. I don't
Mhm.
really want to ever write music that people encourages people to kind of sit and stew and be sad. And I guess there's a place for that, but I don't want to write that kind of music because I think it's important that, let's say I don't know you directly and you don't have a friend who comes over and helps you out, but you have my music, and maybe I can
Mhm.
pull you out with the music. And that's a goal.
Yes, absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a very, I've had this year's worth of crazy life, which always makes for really good people. People say to me, "Well, write a song about it." I'm like, "Can you not say that right now?" Today I'm a person. I'm not a songwriter. I'm just sad. But
Yes.
it does always, again, it's like I really feel a very important and beautiful gift with music to say, I have the opportunity to be a light for somebody who has a different circumstance, who has a different
Yeah.
life, who has a different friend circle, who has a different family situation. And it's like, I can do that indirectly. I don't even have to. That's why, you have people who are writing music that affects millions of people. That's very, very powerful. So,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
So I think, Laura, with your blessing, we're going to have maybe one or two of your songs play
Of
after this
course.
interview. Or
Yes.
maybe I kind of wanted to like open with one of your songs and then like
Sure.
maybe close with some. And I realized
Absolutely.
that like when you end up signing like a major record deal one day,
Uh-huh.
I'm sure I'm gonna get a call from them like, you need to take this down. I'm gonna be like,
No, actually,
damn it.
no, that's not true, because the record that I put out in this past summer, I own all of the rights to, and
Oh, okay,
right,
perfect.
I will maintain all the rights to. So the person to talk about that is me. Not saying
Right
yes.
Yay.
away. Amazing.
Hey.
So, all right, I want to ask you because I just know I can tell whether you end up, only touching, and I hate, like, I don't mean only, but even
Yeah.
if you
No,
only
no.
touch 1,000 people, or one day when I know you will touch hundreds of millions of people, what is something, no matter what shows up in the tabloids, no matter what shows up in the blog sphere, no matter what, some media person's going to come along and twist this shit all over the place. What is the one thing that you want the world to know about you?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question.
Sorry, it's a big one.
No,
but I
that's a
just
good
think that,
one. Yeah, it's
we
important.
I look at all these, public figures, and I just feel, and Dana, the same goes for you sometimes. Like, I just feel for you guys when
Yeah.
people take things and they twist things about you, or they post a picture that they photoshopped in a really unflattering way, or they take words, and twist them, or they put words in your mouth. And I'm like, God, no one can get it right nowadays.
Well,
No.
and that's
No one is
exactly it.
safe.
That's the message, is that, like, we're all human. We're all doing our best. We're all, I can tell you that I will definitely fail. I will definitely embarrass myself. I will definitely not communicate something the best way, but I can tell you I always, always, always do my best. Always. And if that's all we can offer the world. That's all we
Yeah.
can offer the world. And like, even with everything that's going on with my music right now, I've been given massive opportunities in the last few months where it's really hard and it's really confusing and it's causing me to be so uncomfortable in all these things. But every day I say, did you do your best today, Laura? And it always makes me try a little bit harder. Ask one more person for help. Ask for one more opportunity. Go seek out one more show. Reach out to one more person who maybe needs a word of encouragement. Like, every time I ask myself, did you do your best today? And going into a public forum like we're in, like, that's the only thing that's going to let you sleep at night, is to say, this person said I did this. What happened is, there's a funny thing that happened to me last summer, is that I spent a lot of time with all sorts of different people because I'm in music, and music is a very male dominated industry. And I was working with a producer, and I was also working with another friend of mine who, the singer from this band, right? And I was going to his rehearsals, and I was going to this producer's, and this guy he does, media in my town. He said to the singer friend of mine, he came into a rehearsal and I happened to be there, and then he had seen me with the different producer guy, the day before, whatever. And he said to the singer, he said, "Oh, I'm not fucking with Laura. She fucks everybody." Yes.
Excuse me?
What?
Yes. And I was so mad. And because I wasn't sleeping with any of those people. I
And
was
even
working
if
with
you
them.
were,
And that's
who
none of
cares?
their business.
Get
Right.
it.
Exactly. Right. And so
God.
I got so mad, and this and that, and and my friend I was talking to about, like, I was just going off, oh my gosh, I can't believe this person said this and that. I'm not even sleeping with those people, and this and that. And he was like, Laura, are you really going to do this for the rest of your life? Because guys are going to tell their friends that they've been with you. You don't even know them, like, in the future. So it's like, you have to figure out now how to deal with situations like that.
Yeah.
And so that was a very big learning moment for me to say, because it questioned my integrity, and that really upset me.
Sure.
And I needed to say, well, all these people I'm being honest with, all these people I'm just working with, all these people I'm having, a relationship with, in the sense that we're all working together, and that, and it's like, you're a photographer, like, I would expect you to go take pictures for any girl, anybody, like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
So I think for me, that was a very big learning experience, to say, people are just going to say what they're going to say, and they're going to assume what they're going to assume, and they're going to say, they're going to think what they think,
And whatever
you can do.
Exactly, whatever they think or whatever they say about me,
Right.
I'm not in control of.
Yes.
But
I am
I
in
can't
control myself. Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh my
And
God.
so, yeah, that's my
So
biggest thing
true.
is, am I doing my best? And that's, I again, like, I don't know if I've answered any of your questions.
No, you
But
Yes.
have. You have,
but I
absolutely.
think you said, what do you want people to really know about me? And I think that, again, I want to be on a platform that I'm creating to say, you can create whatever you want to create, you can do whatever you want to do, you can be a human, you can fail. It's like, I love when you see interviews with, I saw a thing with A-Rod the other day, and he said he's like top 5 people who have struck out in MLB, but he's also one of the top players in the baseball
Yes.
league.
Yeah.
Same with Oprah. It's like, Oprah has failed the most times of anybody in the world. She's also the most successful. So it's like, good, fail forward, do it, try it. It
Yep.
might not work. It might work. I don't know. But, life is worth
Just give it a go.
living. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Life is
I
very much worth living.
It is. I feel like my job is to fail. Half of my job is to
yes.
fail.
Yes. Big time. Big time.
And it's about perspective, because
Definitely.
when I look at it that way, I'm like, oh, this is tolerable, I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
then this is just my job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Okay, cool. I can
Yeah.
fail. Definitely. I got that down. But, and like, same for you, Dana, is like, I think, okay, you're on Modern Family. People, like, that's amazing and that's the most incredible thing. They don't see how many auditions you haven't gotten. Like,
Absolutely.
nobody knows that part. People see
Yeah.
me, doing certain things. So like, oh my gosh, yeah, well, I made 100 phone calls and this one thing worked. Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Hmm.
know that part. And you have to be willing to do that part and say, okay, no problem. It's a numbers game. At some point, somebody's going to hire me. Somebody's going to want to listen to my
Absolutely.
music. Yeah, it's like, it's just, that's kind of how it works.
It
And
was funny. So I work with I work for a software company and I'm their director of new business. And the same guy who is our SVP of analytics for WISP is also my marketing director at that job. So we sit next to each other all day. And
nice.
he got me a great list of leads last week. So I was hitting the phones hard. And for an hour straight, people just kept saying, no, no, thank you,
No,
Samantha.
no.
No. Or like
Mm-hmm.
some guy goes, I don't fucking know you. I'm like,
Oh, jeez.
you
Okay.
want to
No,
get
thank
to
you would be
know me?
just fine.
And he hung up on me. And so I finally, after an hour on the phone, you gotta have a sip of water, maybe
Mm-hmm.
have some
Mm-hmm.
Cheez-Its and give yourself a second. And Ian looks over at me and he goes, dude, I could never do what you do. Not one person has said yes. I'm like, E, do you have any idea how many times I have heard the word
Mm-hmm.
no? That's how
Mm-hmm.
I came up with the name for my freaking company because my entire life people were
Right.
constantly telling me, Samantha, you're not thin enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not a good enough. I also went to school for arts. You're not a good enough singer. You're not a good dancer, actress.
Mm-hmm.
You're this, 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 this. And I would always just sort of respond with, whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a negative. And then when I was depressed and sad, and Corbin was banging on my door asking me if I had showered, and Abby's calling me like, have you eaten today?
Yes.
I just was like, you know what? Let's take a negative and turn it into a
Yes.
positive. And
Yes.
there we go. And now we have this company, and I've got you guys, and it's just, there's
Awesome.
always something. Going back to what I said and what I think we've all said, there's always something. It's
Yeah.
waiting just on the other side of the darkness. And if you push through, I promise you, it's there. And it might not look like what you think it's going to look like. Life has a
Right.
funny way of doing that. You think, oh, it's going to be like this and this. And then life is like, well, actually, and you're like,
Actually,
oh,
you need to do
surprise.
this.
But,
And that's
it's whatever. You have to just roll with the punches. You're going to hear no a lot more than you hear yes. And that's
right.
okay. You just laugh at it, learn from it, move on. It's all good.
Well, and the funny thing is that I think for everybody is that I don't know that people take it seriously enough that you can create your own reality. Like,
Mm-hmm.
somebody saying, well, you can't do that. Well, that's their own insecurity, their own perspective, their own fears and
Yes.
doubts. That you don't have to take that on. You can be
Right.
in a bubble to say, okay, well, that's what you believe, so it's not going to work for you. Sorry to let you
Right.
know, but it
That's
might work
your
for
Bye.
me.
experience, and
Right. And
you're
so,
projecting that onto me. I'm not going to accept that.
Right. And
Yeah.
you know, I remember singing in a bar once, and I can't tell you how many times, which is incredible and beautiful. People always tell me, "Oh my gosh, you sound just like Adele. You sound just like Amy Winehouse." You know, all these things. And so I remember singing in a bar for $100 and a glass of whiskey, and I was like, "Somebody tell me why." Every show I do, somebody tells me how much I'm like Adele, and she's making $800 a ticket, and I'm making $100 in a bar. It's not the
Mhm.
difference between our talent. It's not the
Mhm.
difference between what we look like, what we sound like, all these different things. It's a difference that she created the value around herself to say,
Hmm.
yes, you're going to pay $800 a ticket.
Mhm.
And so that's something I had to learn. You know, Dana, I'm sure you've experienced this where it's like everybody says no, and then you're on Modern Family and now everybody wants a piece, and it's like, what?
Mhm.
Where did you come from? Like, we, you know, same
Yeah.
thing with music. It's like, but we created value around ourselves, and that's very empowering to say, okay, we can create the value.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Nothing is impossible. Well, Laura, when you are giant and you're on a stadium tour, can we please come to your
yes,
concert?
yes,
Yes.
you can,
Sit in the
of
back
course.
and
No,
we'll
you give
cheer
me a
you on.
stage.
I just, I am so happy for you. I
Thank
truly am. And
you.
I think, one thing I want to leave you with is like a friend of a friend who's been watching you through like the lens of a friend, I guess. Um, I, I've always felt very much like, this sounds so weird. I always felt very much like I knew you.
Oh.
Like, I just felt like, yeah, she gets it, because sometimes as someone who is a regular everyday person, and is not in the public eye, that's sort of how I view celebrities. I think to myself,
Sure.
well, like if I showed up at Kristen Bell's house, like, would she
Uh-huh.
let me in and like,
Right.
I don't know, like slice up a banana for me? Like,
You're right.
or like before I met you, Dana, I'm like, wow, if I bumped into Dana on the side of the road and just started like gawking about how much I love Modern Family, would she talk to me or would she kick me in the face and run away from me? But, something that I think amongst thousands of things, but something that you do very well is it sort of reminds me of Lady Gaga. You create a very safe space for your
Oh,
fans
thank you.
and your followers to feel very comfortable,
Yeah.
with with you, with your music, and then also with the other people that follow your career. And I hope that, and I know you will, but I hope that that's something that you protect very
Yes.
fiercely as
Yes.
you continue
Thank
to
you.
grow and you become so famous and an inspiration for millions. And if anyone can do it, I just know that it's you. So I want to thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for joining us for this interview. And you've been so great with scheduling. I know you've been here in LA and all over
Yes.
the
Yes.
place.
I'm
And
glad
I'm
we,
like,
yeah.
when am I gonna get Laura on
Yeah.
the show?
Yes. Thank
So
you for
we're
having
just
me.
thrilled. Well, it was
Yeah.
our pleasure and our privilege, and we wish you all the best. So, for the listeners, we are going to leave you with one of Laura's songs, maybe two of them, and then maybe what we'll do is we'll just upload the whole album to our account too,
Yeah. Do
so
it.
more
I
people
love
can
it.
listen to it.
Yes,
And it
please.
has a place to live other than the links that you already have. It'll have a
Yeah.
link with us, and
Absolutely.
we'll just do anything we can
Well,
to
thank
help you
you.
out and spread the word. So, thank
Yeah,
you very much for
do
joining
you
us.
have social media that you can just
Yes.
shout out so
Oh
people
yes,
can
Yes.
find you?
Find me on probably Instagram or Facebook is the best. It's at Laura Dowding, Dowding, music. So Laura Dowding music. Pretty much you can find me anywhere. And
she's very
I,
Googleable.
yeah, if you Google Laura Dowding, you're gonna find something from me. So, yeah, and I always try to, like you said, Samantha, like it's very important to me that I am vulnerable and that people feel comfortable, like they do feel, because I think people forget that the fans and the, you know, people who are entertaining, they're equally important. And the reason that us as entertainers do what we do is because we love people and we love
Hmm.
being,
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, well, they're on this pedestal and they're up there and we're down here. That's so not the case. And I was
No,
just
you're
saying to,
constantly thinking about
yeah,
us,
yeah,
the listener,
totally,
or us, the viewer.
absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you so much for, I don't know if I answered any questions,
You
Yeah.
did.
but I feel like I just talk. But
No, you answered all the questions, and I'm so excited for more people to get to know you. And
thank you.
I'm so excited. I can't wait. I'm sitting here
Thank
with my
you.
popcorn, and I'm just ready for this to take off,
Yes.
even more so than it already has.
Well, thank
So
you. It
thank
means
you,
a lot to
Laura.
me.
And go follow her on social media, everyone. You're
Yes.
not going to regret it. Download her album. It's unbelievable. We'll leave you with a couple songs now. Once again, I am your host, Samantha.
And I am Dana.
And you've just listened to episode 3 of When I Knew, produced by Whatever You Say Productions.
I've been beat down, left out, shook up. I've been run around, lost ground, shit out of luck. But I also know the weight it makes you stronger. And no worries, I done seen those brighter days. You never know who's listening. We're listening. You never know the difference you can make. You might never know you're valuable. No matter what they tell you, you matter. What they tell you, you matter. I said no matter what they tell you, you matter. What they tell you, you matter. I've had my heart broke, the money slow, and my body's out of control. I hated myself, needed help to find my way back to my soul. But I also know the story's gotta be told. It never gets old. Who's gonna be the one to tell yours if you don't? You never know who's listening. We're listening. You never know the difference you can make. You might never know you're valuable. No matter what they tell you, you matter. What they tell you, you matter. I said no matter what they tell you, you matter. What they tell you, you matter. You might not believe in you, but I do. The essence of everyone here is the truth. No matter what you've been through, your story matters too. You never know who's listening. We're listening. You never know the difference you can make. You might never know you're valuable. No matter what they tell you, you matter. What they tell you, you matter. I said no